Good day, everyone. I hope you're all well. We'll just get started. My name is John Shippick. I'm the Exploration Product Manager at Datamine Software, and welcome to the Discover 2017 release webinar. So as you may know, it's been a big year for the Discover product. Had a transition of owner mid-year from Pitney Bowes to Datamine. And when that happened mid-year, we were quite determined that we were still going to release this year, despite the disruption. So we're up and running. I'm pretty happy with the release we've put out, and let's have a look at it now. Just a bit of housekeeping. If you've got any questions, just ask them in the panel. You've all been muted. If you just type them down the bottom, and at the end we'll get to them and go through them. Okay, so the first big feature that we've put in is image geotagging. So that's as you all know, with the availability of cheap digital cameras on your iPhone, you know, it's just a great way to collect data. And so what happens with most images, so if it's taken on your phone or a pretty high-end camera, you can get GPS data embedded in the metadata of the image. So this is embedded into, it's called an EXIF metadata structure, and nearly every camera operates on it, which is usually pretty unusual. Usually most camera makers would want something different, but nearly every image that's taken, it gets written to EXIF. And so that's what we've done with the image geotagging. So what we do is we can point to a folder with this tool, write out a point file, and then put all the geotagged metadata into a point file and then plot the points. So I'll just start a demo of that tool. So if we go to images, you'll see here there's geotag setup and geotag viewer. So what we're going to do, if you see we've got a folder full of images here. It's from an area near the office here in Melbourne, which is an old gold mining area. And if we look at these images and we go right click properties and go details, you can see all the metadata that's captured with each image. So it's not just an image, there's lots that go with it. So you'll see here there's GPS, there's lat long, and altitude is captured. So we can grab that information really easily and then plot it as a point, and that's what the Geo Image tool does. So I'll just close that and we'll get started. So if we go images, geotag setup, you can open an existing geotag table. So they're a special type of table to be in this tool. They're configured all the same with path, file name, long, lat, elevation, bearing, make, model, date, time, and you can add as many other fields as you want, but you have to be able to put these fields in. The compulsory ones are path, file name, and long and lat, obviously. So we can open up an existing file or we can create a new one. So instead of having to create a new file and configure all this yourself, if you just press the plus here, what it does, it will create it for you. So all you have to do is give it a name. So I'll put it in geotagging and we'll call it demo tag, and I'll go save. And so what that does, it opens a point file called demo tag, and here's the geotag setup. So it's populated all the columns. We go next. So the other thing we do is we have to assign a folder where we're going to get the images from. So this was pre-existing, and it's come up and it says images containing no location information have been detected. So it just lets you know they're there. Only images containing location information will be imported. So you would have seen there was a few images from inside of mine that didn't have GPS data on it, so it just discards that and only brings that data in. It's got GPS data. So I go OK, I go finish, and it says 15 geotag locations were successfully created. So I go OK, and the geotag viewer now comes up, and if I go over here and go view entire layer, you can see all the points here. So I'll just make this a little bit more visible. So I'll turn that to spot and yellow, and let's put a base map on it. Let's make it a bit more interesting. So you can see this is where in the area that all the images were taken. So what you can do, you can select single points and then the image comes up in the geotag viewer over here as one image. Or you can select multiple points. So if we go select marquee selection, we select all of these. So this is the multiple selection. So what we can do, if you do that, you can click on that and you can pan through and you'll see an arrow will appear where each image was taken. Okay, so it's down here now. So you get a quick overview of where each image is. So if you want to see the image in more detail, you can double click on it and it opens up into the image editor. You can close that, you can zoom in, do whatever you want with that. Okay, some of the other features that are here, if we get out of this, we can close that. And if I just go to single select, and there's toggle bearing. So if I turn that on, see down here in the right, what it does, if I click on it, you'll see there's an arrow in the direction that the image was taken. So this could be quite handy if you're going to be using 3D. So that's another bit of metadata that's captured in the image. So you can see, okay, well this was facing that way. Okay. Now what you can also do when you're in single image mode is you can edit the images that you have. You can edit these points and put data into it. So we've got the single data entry tool. So if we edit that, so it comes up, the single record entry tool. Let's just move this so it's in a better location down the bottom here. So the other thing we can do as well is we can, so just go demo tag, so you can see all the data that's associated with each image. So if I click on this, you'll see the image comes up and all the associated data in the single record tool. Okay, so what I can do here with this file, I might add a comment field, for example. So just if I go table, modify structure, and I'm just going to add a field called comment. I'm going to make that character 256, 254, sorry, and go OK. Now I'll just restart this. So I'll just put that back in, and I'll just change the view again. Now we can see these images, and I'll just get up the single record entry tool again. Select the table, demo geotag, and you'll see I can enter comments. So let's call that added. But if I want to make that a little bit more seamless, then I can also pan through here as I'm going down the bottom. I can just keep adding things as I go. But if I want to get rid of all these columns here, I can go all fields visible. I'll come up here, I'll turn them off, and I just want to make comment visible. Okay, so now as I scan through these, I can just add comments to the images and it gets embedded in the file. Okay, so really great handy tool, helps you engage with your imagery, helps you catalog your imagery, and just makes life a lot easier instead of having to bring images in, append them to a GPS record. Yeah, it's a big time saver. I think you'll be using it quite a bit. Okay. So the next thing we're going to look at are the GPS improvements that was put into this release. So we're really having a big mobility push. We understand that you can run map info on a tablet now, no problem, and lots of you are taking it out the field. So we want to be able to start putting new tools in to help you engage with map info Discover when you're out in the field. So a couple of things that we've put in, I'll just put here. So if I open up base map, just close these. Zoom into Melbourne, my hometown, where our data is. So what you can do now with the GPS tool, the first thing in GPS setup is on the connection mode, you can really easily hook up to an internal GPS. So if you've got a tablet and if it's got Windows 10, Windows 10 has a geolocation API built in it, and it's really easy to be able to find the internal GPS on that device. So that's a new feature there. So if you're using a Windows 10 device and you know it's got a GPS, use that and it'll be really quite easy to hook up. You don't have to configure through a COM port. So what we're going to do today, the other thing you can do as well, which is a real, I'll just start this up actually. So I'm going to go to a log file. So this is a file that we were using previously. And it recorded a path, so I'll just turn that on. So now you'll see there's this dot here and it's moving based on where someone was moving when this data was collected, okay? So the other thing you can do with this now, if I go location, you can see it's in lat long. But what we've added, if we want to now, we can go settings and we can change the projection format. So let's change this to a meridian projection. So 94.55, go okay, turn that back on. So the GPS is showing the track. And if I go location, you'll see now it's in a meridian projection. So that'll help you just find where you are if you know all your data's in a meridian projection instead of lat long. Okay, so one of the great features we've put in is the waypoint navigator. So if you've got your tablet device out in the field and you want to navigate to a point, you can do it now like a traditional GPS does with a waypoint navigator. So it really takes out, now you can be just dealing with native map info files. You don't have to be putting data into a GPX, putting it into a GPS, collecting your data, bringing it back in. You can just go find things based on this waypoint finder. So let's start this up. And what we can do is we go to the point we want to find. So just say it's here, and I press start, and you'll see it'll put in a bearing line, and it'll put in your arrow to tell you which way you're going. So you want to be able to move when you're out in the field with your arrow facing the bearing line, so you'll know where you'll get to where you want to go. And then you can also put in a buffered distance, and when you hit that buffered distance, it turns green. Okay, so you'll see here's the buffer. So let's turn that off. I can make the buffer a little bit bigger, just say we've got poor GPS. I'll change the point down here and go okay. Now it's got a 20-meter buffer. You can see it's increased it. And you see as it comes in and then it hits that buffer and it turns green and you know you've hit your point. So a really great handy tool that stops you having to sort of put everything in and out of your GPS. Okay. So I'll just turn that off. The next thing is the auto recenter. So we got GPS up and running about a year ago, and we found that it'll be running and then you'll be out in the field and you'll want to see something over here, and it'll always bring you back to the center point, okay, which can be a bit frustrating. So we've got a thing here so you can just turn that off. So if you want to just quickly turn it off, browse over, see where you're going to be going to next, and then if you want to, you can manually put it back on the center and off you go. Okay, the other two features we put in are way better import GPX and export GPX file. So of course, a lot of people still be using traditional GPS. We used to have, we still do, in the vector import export tool, a GPS importer and exporter. It was a little bit clunky, so we've just refined it a bit more. So what we can do, I'll just close all this. And what we can do is we can import a GPX file. So we go to the import folder, which is pretty straightforward. GPX, so let's go to this sample hike. output folder. I just put in the same one. Now you'll see here what this does that the old tool doesn't do. It'll break the GPX out into waypoints, routes, tracks, route points, and track points, and save them as a different tab file. It'll also preserve all the columns that come across and put them as a tab file. I think previously the old tool, it'd just have it as common delimited within the browser, which can be a bit annoying. And you've also got the options to say, okay, I know I'm bringing in a track. Do I want to create track points? And do I want to import it as a segment or multiple lines? So if I go track points and a segment, I go okay. And you can see how quick that was. It's a really efficient tool, can use really big data, and you'll see it's giving me all my track points. And if I come over here and select, it's one big line. But I also, if I wanted to, I can go GPS, export, do it all again. Oops, sorry, wrong tool. Import, and if I go options and I want to go multiple tracks as multiple lines, go OK, and zoom in, and you can see that they're all just broken up lines now. Okay, and all the data has come across over browser's table. You can see all the columns are there, so it brings the data nice and clean. So the other thing it has as well, you can export GPX you can export tab files, point tab files into GPX points. It's got the projection, and you can associate fields with what you're going to pump out. So it's a pretty handy tool. Okay, so just close that one down. Let's move on to our next feature. Okay, so the other thing is menu customization. So if you have a tablet out in the field, you don't want to have like a massive map info desktop menu. You're there, you're only going to be doing a few things around collecting or visualizing data. You're not going to be doing anything crazy. So you can really cut down on the menu items, which is really good. So what you can do, if we go to here, and you'll see if I go discover, and I'll go tablet, and you can see what it's done. It's cut down the menu items to only things that would be relevant to someone using a tablet. Okay, GPS, create lines if you're out in the field, navigate, and basic discover. So just a little bit more unwieldy than all these things here, which you'd be trying to engage with on a tablet would be quite frustrating. Okay. The other thing we've done, something that everybody asked for, was reinstate the old services module. So we just listened to people basically. It wasn't a big deal to put in. We still had the old code there. We've changed it to 64-bit. So now people can use the old contours, which are more smooth. It's got a great, the old grid profiler is back in there. Export grid to image, and all the old discover gridding methods and file types that you can import and export are back in there. So you know, you guys, it was quite a common request, so we just put it back in. Okay, some more enhancements to the drill hole module. So we've put in point table support. So just say, for example, you've got core, you're measuring alpha betas as a structure table down hole. It's pretty silly to have to put from to, it's just a bit of a pain. So now if you've just got a depth column, you can engage with that, and it can be imported into the Discover drill holes module. And there's also multi-column downhole table support. So for example, if your from twos are in different locations in different tables, it's not a big deal anymore, so we can handle that. Okay, as with Datamine, we've obviously got Studio EM, which is our 3D capability for explorers, and we've got Discover, which is our 2D capability. So we've really put an effort into just making it integrate more and more. Every year we'll just increase the integration, so it'll be almost a seamless product eventually. So what we've done first off, we've made the workspace exporter tool. So if you have a Discover workspace and you want to bring it into Studio EM, you can do it quite seamlessly. So what it does, it takes all the map info files as point, string, polygon, takes your grid and can turn it into a wireframe. It'll take all the files, turn them into Datamine files and things that Datamine can support, and puts them all in the same projection, so it's quite seamless to bring masses of data across into Studio. So that's in plan view. We've also done the same with the section view. So you can bring your drill holes across, your drill hole traces, your section layers, you can bring images, all the same functionality that you could bring across into Discover 3D, you can now do into Studio. So I'll just show you that quickly. So if I go drill holes, I'll just open a project. And if I wanted to go drill hole, Studio export, it's all the same functions as we've got for Discover 3D. So drill hole tables, traces, sections, layers. So layers is a great one. If you've got off your B layer or your D layer, where you've got all your polygons, you can bring them across into Studio really seamlessly. Okay, data entry. So, sorry. For anyone that does a lot of digitizing, you're really going to love this tool, the improvements we've made to it. So if you're doing a lot of strikes, digitizing in strike symbols or, any structure symbols, it makes it a lot easier. So I'll just demonstrate that now. So what it can do, so let's open up, we've got a rectified image that's got structure and a structure table. And I'm going to enter data into. So if I zoom into here, and you can see there's some structure symbols here. Now, if I wanted to digitize these in previously, I would have to sort of put a rough dip direction, and then I'd have to keep changing it to it aligned with the symbol. But now what we can do is just digitize it off the symbol. So if we go Discover Setup Table, so the first thing we've done as well is we've given the user the ability, you can digitize the strike or the dip direction. Now, it's always a bit conscientious around using the strike because of the right hand rule. So we're saying our right hand rule, I think we're going to go with the American one, that your right hand is pointing down dip and the way you are looking is the direction of the strike. So you can change this to dip direction or strike. So let's clear that and let's start digitizing in strike. And we go save and close. Okay, so what I can do now is I go capture record entry. Now the other thing that we couldn't do before was use single record entry to enter structure. So let's go, we want to put this into structure Gannon's. So what I can do, so remember we're going to use the right hand rule, so we're going to digitize this in using a line. So if I go spatial, insert a line, and if we go, okay, that's going to be on my right hand side, so I'm looking this way, and I'll just make sure I put that on there, and I'll give it a bedding, so it's bedding, and the dip on this is 30 degrees. And you can see I was just a little bit off when I was digitizing it in, but the structure symbol is in pretty much where I wanted it to go. Okay, so it's a really handy tool for someone that's doing heaps and heaps of digitizing. So just moving along. And lastly, Discover 3D. We put a location navigator in so you can manually enter your point and where you want to be looking. So just lastly, that's everything for the 2017 release. Just going on to 2018. So we've already started on 2018 and we're really going to be investing heavily. We know that industry is increasing, so we're prepared to put the money in. What we're going to be looking at is just better ways to be able to integrate Discover. So it's got a better data management capability. Currently, if you use Discover, you've probably got files all over the place. We want to be able to centralize that and help with, using bigger data so you can sort of clip to a project area and really pushing the mobility. So we're looking at the potential of creating a light mobile device that seamlessly hooks up to Discover, and you can just sort of import the projects in and out seamlessly. So that's what we're really aiming to get for 2018. Okay, so that's all from me, but what we can do now is I'll take any questions. So I'll just go through this. Okay, so I'm not sure about your question about the duplicates. I'll have to go to support via that one. And just from Parker. That's it, just the two questions. Anyone else? Any other questions? Don't want to take up too much of your time because I understand everyone's busy. All right, well, that's all from me. If you've got any product suggestions, feel free to email me. Really want to engage with our audience, especially around the product. So if you've got something you really want to see in the product, please email me at john.shippick, which is SHIPPICK @dataminesoftware.com, and we'll get back to you straight away. So that's it for me pretty much. I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and the release, it should be out on Friday, all going to plan. If not Friday, it'd be at latest Monday. So you'll see an email coming to your inbox, and yeah, get into it and try all the new features. Okay, thanks for your time.